Welcome to Meanwhile at the Castle podcast. I'm Queen Emily.
I'm Queen Deborah.
And we are queens of our castles, keeping the domestic arts alive. Today is October 15th, and this is episode 57. And it's October, and it's wonderful, and I love it. But
it's lovely. How
are you doing in October?
I'm doing I can't even think of...
Who knows?
Yeah, we're great.
We're still here. Yay!
We're alive.
It's been a long time since we've podcast and a lot of things have happened. So we're going to start today with a life update, and then we are going to do finished objects, then works in progress, and then we'll have a kindness is like sugar segment, and then a little bit of shop news at the end. So life update, Deborah.
It's been 3 months.
3 months. There's a lot that's happened in 3 months.
I'm like, we've been just like everybody else, busy, working hard, keeping our heads above water. I would have said 3 months ago that we've started gardening, and now I'm like, it's time to put the garden to bed. So I actually have no idea what has happened.
You've done a lot of gardening though, and a lot of food preservation, and
I have just been filling my days to the brim from sunrise to past sunset with lots of hard work and lots of good things in life, and hiking and camping and sewing and gardening and home repairs and food preservation. We've just had full days.
It's been good.
What about you?
Well, we've had a couple little things happen in our lives. So little thing number one is that we managed to pull off our yearly Heroic Youth event. And it was very different because of our circumstances in our lives for all of us right now. It was much smaller, it was shorter, but it was also a long, busy summer because we did a whole summer worth of stuff virtually. So that was wonderful. That was at the beginning of September that we kind of started to wrap that up and had our actual event, but it ran through the whole summer. So that kept us very busy. And then also, my oldest son, Ethan, just got married last weekend on the 10th. So that was really wonderful. It was just a beautiful, amazing, kind of magical fairy tale day with gorgeous fall weather, an outdoor wedding. And, it reminded me of, for some reason, the movie Prince of Thieves, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Okay.
At the very end, the wedding scene in the forest with Maid Marian and Robin Hood. And then King Richard comes in.
She had the world's largest wreath on her head.
Yeah, that wasn't so much. But, big wreath on her head. And then the golden, leaves falling down. Yeah. And anyway, I just had this little moment where they were standing there and the leaves were kind of falling because it was breezy. Yeah. And I was like, it's like Robin Hood. And I loved that movie so much when I was in high school.
I did too.
In fact, I'm not finished with it. I started watching it yesterday just because I was thinking about
I'm thinking the music. Dun, dun, dun,
That's a good movie.
Very good music. So I was a band nerd. And so I was in junior high at that time, and I was in the band, and we were playing that song. And that's where I learned all about thirds. That's where I learned the emphasis on thirds, that it's not just da-da-da. Da-da-da. There's a certain rhythm to thirds where you have an emphasis on one of them. Anyways, and I loved playing that song, and we were so terrible. But
it was so much fun.
I loved it. So anytime I watched Robin Hood, which now I've gone back to watch it, and I'm thinking, not what I remember. There's a lot of things that we watched as a family.
Yeah. You're going, wait, my parents let us kids watch that?
and we sat down as a family together and watched this, and we were okay with all of that. So anyways.
Our family thinks it's fine as long as you have an innocence pillow. That's the joke. So the kids will have a throw pillow from the couch, and it's mostly just a joke, but somebody will kiss and they'll go, oh, I need my innocence pillow, It's so funny. They're hilarious. They think they're hilarious
Oh,
anyway.
now I need to watch that music again.
But we had a magical wedding, and Ethan and
Did you
his
say that
beautiful...
musical? Sorry.
I knew what you meant.
Sorry.
You needed to watch that movie.
Well, it had
and
music.
listen to the music.
It had music. It could be a musical. I was singing along. Okay.
But his new wife, Tannen, she is just the sweetest, most darling thing. And we just love her. And she comes from a fantastic family, just really good and supportive. And anyway, they're going to get home from their honeymoon tonight and get settled into their apartment and just get rolling on life. So that's been a big part. All of those things have been a big part of why you haven't seen us. Deborah has been gardening and preserving food and working and hiking and camping. And I've been doing heroic youth and a wedding. So that was a lot to be getting on with.
Just had lots of living to do.
Yes, which is
Got
good.
a lot of living to do, so we won't sing that song either.
All
Okay.
right. So we have a lot of finished objects, although both of us have pared them down, and we will not be showing
it was
you
like
everything.
3 months. So every time I'd make something, I set the thing in a bin,
Yes.
and it became a pile. And then I wanted to use that or give it away, and so I just decided, okay, I'm gonna not worry about that. We'll just bring some of the things,
Which is still plenty.
Yeah.
So what should we start
Why don't you
with?
start? What is that?
This is hard to show. I do have a photo of this, but I knit. This is a crochet. I crocheted the Chelsea cardigan. I think she calls it a wrap, but it's kind of a cardigan. And this is by Vicki Chan. And I just saw this and I fell in love with it. This is the one where we talked about wearing things upside down, if you remember. So I have shown this before on the podcast. I have not worn it upside down. I don't see at all how it's pretty that way. But the thing, I'll just tell you, before I show it to you, it is huge. It's too big. I am not an experienced crocheter of garments. I've done a lot of crochet, but not of garments. And so the fit, I just didn't, I don't know, measuring gauge and everything, I just wasn't as good at it. It's really, really big. So there's a part of me that's wondering, it didn't take me very long to make. So the part of me that's wondering if I'm going to just tear the whole thing out and do it again in a smaller size. But, we'll see what happens. So I crocheted this out of Illimani Sabri color 82, which is actually the recommended yarn for this pattern. It's this beautiful kind of loose 2-ply that is 85% organic cotton and 15% baby alpaca. So it's cotton, but soft and yet not scratchy like alpaca can be.
Yeah, because it will drape nicely with the alpaca.
It's very drapey. Anyway, so this thing is, like I said, gigantic and not very shapely, but it's so pretty. So I wear it. If I could figure out a way to maybe put some anchoring points to kind of give it some more shape, I would. But it's humongous. But I do have a picture of me in it, so we will insert that. But I did finish it. I love
but this,
the drape.
Yeah, this
And
right here.
yes. Oh, yeah. It's very nice. What does it smell like?
Okay, everybody just
like
hold
me.
on for a minute. Just
Okay.
stop. Hold on. When is the last time you smelled your yarn? Because I'm just saying, with how busy life has been, I haven't taken
Pause
the
and
time
smell
to
the
stop
yarn.
and
Stop and smell the yarn. That should be
I made lots of opportunities this year to stop and smell my roses. Every time I walked by, I would go back and I'm like, I gotta smell these roses. I'm gonna enjoy every single one of these roses. I haven't been smelling my yarn though.
Okay, well, Deborah, get on it.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to smell this one.
Okay.
Ooh, that one's
See?
very lavendery because I have a sachet.
But if you work with yarn a lot and wool and using wool washes and different things like that,
They have good
you
smells.
know that it's an acquired smell. It's an acquired smell.
But you do grow to love it.
Yes, because when I dye yarn, it's been a while, I'm just saying, but I did it the other day. Oh, I should have brought some. Anyways, I did it the other day And while the yarn was soaking, I kept thinking, what is that smell? And I was opening all the windows and I'm checking around.
Smells
and
like
I
an animal.
realized it was the yarn. And it's an acquired smell. But when I would dye yarn regularly, I just like, oh, smell it. It's so great.
It is.
Okay. So,
although I have to say, some yarns, like dyeing mohair, I hate the smell of mohair.
No, don't stop and smell that.
Once it's washed, it's funny because once it's washed and dry, it's great. It doesn't
when it's
have
wet, it's, you know what it smells like? It smells like a goat.
What the heck?
Okay.
So anyway, this pattern, it was really fun to make. I really enjoyed it. I think I did the entire thing in like less than 2 weeks. I could have done it faster, but I was busy. So I may redo it in a smaller size. Or I might find a way to put some anchoring, like a crochet chain or something in the shoulder. It doesn't really have a shoulder seam. So I think that's part of the problem. It doesn't know where to stay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So if you kind of create one for it.
So if I can create a shoulder seam that like can stay in its place, it might work for me.
Like a natural cotton twill tape that you stitch?
Right. I think that it's just so lacy that I think that would show maybe a little bit more.
Since it doesn't already have a seam.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so I got to figure something out because I think I would wear it a lot more if I feel like I kind of am constantly tugging and pulling on it to try and keep it in the place I like it. But I highly recommend trying it out. Just maybe either you're better at gauge than I am or go down a size. It only really has 2 sizes. It's kind of like the smaller size and the bigger size. And I did the bigger one.
And the bigger one?
And I think I did the bigger one that then got bigger.
Did you check your gauge?
I did, but like I said, it was hard to know. Like, is that really right? I don't know. Because what you're doing to swatch is you're doing your center panel, which is very big and open.
Oh, okay.
So like how big and open should it be?
Okay.
Does that make sense? It's just because there's big holes. I mean, in knitting, the most you're ever going to have is 1 row. In crochet, you can have this entire big open thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it was just a lack of experience there, but it did give me a lot more interest in doing more crocheted garments and trying some more crocheted garments. Mostly what I crochet is like blankets and lace, doilies kind of thing. So anyway, that was really fun to make, though. I enjoyed it.
So have we talked about swatches before and measuring swatches?
I think we have some in our different, like just when we're talking about specific projects. We haven't gone into depth.
This is always my question, is how do you measure your gauge swatch? Do you wash it, block it, and then measure it? Do you measure it pinned out, like, or just lay it down flat and measure? Because some patterns will specify, but very few. Mm-hmm. But if you ever talk to, like, we'll say a professional, I say that because, you know, everybody's got a different idea of what that means. Mm-hmm. They say that it should be blocked first. But if the designer didn't block theirs first, then how do you know? Yeah. So if it's not specified, then that could give you a very different result.
I think that it's true that most sweater designs, at least I have seen, have said in your gauge swatch, you know, they may either give you a pattern for an actual gauge swatch, or they say in this pattern, you know, knit this many rows by this much in this pattern. So in the texture pattern, or in stockinette, or in garter, or whatever. And a lot of them will say washed and blocked. But you're right. Not all of them.
I mean, I haven't made as many garments as you have. But that hasn't been the case in any of them that I have made. Mm-hmm. They haven't specified one way or another.
Interesting.
So
I'd have to go and look.
That makes it really hard to know, because that can make a very big difference.
Yeah.
I've got bouncy. Okay, so I've been growing my hair out. I've got COVID hair. And what I really want to do is like this big pompadour.
I think you should do a pompadour, Jeff.
Well, I've done pompadour, which is really fun, but my family always looks at me like I'm crazy. And then like halfway through the day, it falls flat, and then I have really weird shapes going on. And I pretty much, my motto for hair is, it's just hair. Who cares? It's not that big of a deal. So just do whatever. So I've been growing it out, and I'm kind of like, it's just hair.
There you go.
Right now, that's looking
really
pretty
good. That looks looking
for 4
good.
seconds.
Nice.
Until
Good job.
I do this. I finished a cowl. This has been on my wish list to make for some time. I don't know about this specific pattern, but I wanted to make a cowl that had polka dots, and I wanted to do different colors, so it was kind of like candy, like candy dots, button candy.
Candy buttons.
Candy buttons. That was painful. But this pattern is Spotty Inside and Out Cowl by Kate Celine. And so it is a tube, but you knit it twice as long and then you seam it together. So it is reversible. So here's this one. And so it's nice and thick. Nice and thick. So it's using all fingering weight. But you know what I did? So I did the inside with different colors. With a different color so that I could have, because I'm like, well, it's nice if you have spots on the inside, but they look exactly the same. So what's the point of putting in that effort? I would just do it plain unless I change the color. So now I have 2 cowls for the price of 1.
That's great too, because being stranded and 2 layers, that's going to be
very
warm.
thick, very warm. And for me, I feel like if my feet are warm and my neck is warm, I'm comfortable all over. So I just want my neck to be warm. And so this is a free pattern that's on her website. And it's very simple. This is what I did. I pulled out all of my favorite yarns. I'm like, I'm just going to use whatever makes me super happy to look at for this. And I wanted them to be speckly so that they kind of blend in together. So I picked out a whole bunch of speckly ones, and this main color was called Zombie Cupcakes. And Kathy, she's now Buxom Cats Knits on Instagram. It was Hula Hut Yarns when I purchased this one from her, and that was the main colorway. And this is how much I have left. This is a much thicker fingering weight. It's 434 yards, 115 grams. And it is an 80-20 superwash merino nylon, but it's almost sport weight. It's nice and thick. And then I just pulled out favorite yarns. This is one that was dyed by Emily at Willow Hill Yarn. This one was by Mothie and the Squid Blueberry Sorbet. Mothie and the Squid, that's her cute little tag. And this is part of leftovers from my Catawba Flip colorway. And this is a red that I dyed. And this is a yellow that Emily dyed that I don't know the name of. It was a mini skein in one of your sets.
This is actually from Alice in Wonderland. This is Eat Me. Oh no, We're All Mad Here.
Okay. And then this one is a Hedgehog Fibers yarn that I don't remember the name of, but I made some socks with it for my daughter. And then the blue, I didn't have any blue in the color that I wanted, and I asked Emily if she had any fingering weight, and she had this Knit Picks palette in navy, and I used that one.
Thank you.
So that is what I did.
I
will say
Ethan
that I didn't realize until I had made all of the first side that I did the wrong size dots. I missed one row in each one. So the blue ones are a little bit bigger and bolder. So when you make yours, it looks better doing it the way the pattern says. Go figure. But you know,
still super cute.
But I love it.
Really adorable.
And it's cold outside today, so I'm gonna wear it.
It is chilly today. All right. So next up,
Not chilly in here.
I finished this sweater which I have to admit has not been blocked. This is my scrappy sweater that I made. And I say mine as in I knit it, but it has become my daughter's. Aria has claimed this one and it's super cute on her, but it will be cuter once it's blocked. And this is just a cardigan that I pulled out. I would say scraps, but they weren't little bitty scraps. They were more like partial skeins.
Leftovers from other projects.
Leftovers from other projects, yep. And a lot of these came from projects, things that I'd knit before, like this yarn right here is no, that one's not one I've knit. I knit socks out of that. Anyway, there's a bunch of things like that. So little bits from different projects. Oh, this is from my Wishes cardigan. But a lot of these actually came from my friend Nikki, Clara Peggotty, who sent me a care package full of a bunch of yarns that she was clearing out that were all this color palette. So anyway, I used the Sparkle Cardigan by Joji Locatelli as the base idea, kind of the measurements and construction, but the Sparkle Cardigan is designed with an all over lace pattern, and so I just did it in obviously stockinette, and I knit it with a 3/4 length. This is actually more like a bracelet length sleeve, comes to about like where this sweater is right here on me, and which is what Aria wanted. And I did not put actual button band. There's no buttonholes. It's just going to be an open cardigan. So anyway, it turned out great. I started this back at the beginning of the year, and then I knit a lot of it when I was really sick back in February, which now I'm looking back and thinking, yeah, I know what I had back in February for 3 weeks. And so after that, I didn't want to knit on it anymore because I was sick when I worked on it. Mm-hmm. You know, you get that weird like association. And so I just couldn't stand to work on it. But then I finally pulled it out and put some sleeves on it and finished. Anyway, we had a little interruption, but yes, so this will be even better once it's blocked. But you know, the problem is I finished it and then Aria took it and she's worn it a couple of times and it still hasn't been blocked. So I just took it back from her and there you go. But that was, a lot of fun just to be able to use up little bits. And at first, you know, sometimes I thought, I don't know how this is all going to come together. I think having the same color for around the butt, the neck trim and the hem and the sleeve cuff kind of ties it all together a little bit. But it looks adorable on her. I love how it turned out. So it was great. So I'm glad I kept going and didn't go, oh, I don't like that, and stopped.
It is very fun, and I like the band around the center that you've done where you have
kind of the darker and then the mirrored right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right at her waist where that hits, so it looks really cute.
All right.
There you go.
I have finished second Whittmore sweater. This one is for Ella. The first one I knit was for Nadia. And I finished Nadia's right before Easter and cast Ella's on Easter Day, just in time for warmer weather. So I knew that I had the whole summer to finish it. I finished this a while ago, and so now she can wear it. I dyed the yarn for this, and so I alternated skeins, and I used the helical knitting method, which is my favorite for alternating. It just makes it so easy. And I like this because there's no real front or back, so it doesn't really matter. You can just wear it. You don't have to think too hard about it. And let's see, did I do anything different? No, I made it exactly to the pattern. And the sleeves are lovely. It's all just so pretty. Actually, you know what? That's not true. Ella wanted the waist to come in a little bit further. So I cast on fewer stitches and then I increased up more right after the ribbing. So, I mean, I didn't cast on, wait, did I cast?
No, you decreased.
I decreased more because it's top down. So I decreased more down here because she just wanted it to come in a little bit further. But that's about it. I did everything else to the pattern, and it is a fun and simple pattern. Like, it's really not hard to follow. There's a lot of pages on it, which can seem scary, but really what it is Amy's just making it really simple to follow. So it's a beautiful pattern and very nice to knit.
It's so cute.
So it's,
and isn't Nadia's kind of a pale blush color?
Yes. And I did that. I had them pick out the colors that they wanted, and they couldn't really agree. They both liked these two. They liked this minty green and they liked the blush. So I'm like, well, I'll make one of each then. And that way they could swap if they wanted and take turns wearing either, because they're exactly the same size. So it doesn't really matter on that. But it was kind of fun because then they got to have more say in it.
And they're so fluffy.
It is. I've got fluff like all over my face.
You know how, like, as a knitter, there's things you have everywhere. You have stitch markers everywhere in your house. You find them all over, right?
Yep.
And you've got little tape measures, and you have little scissors, and you have little crochet hooks and cable needles. You know, just everybody, all of us knitters, you just dig through your stuff and you're going to find one of those things anywhere. I really need little mini lint rollers all over the place because we all end up covered with lint. And I don't have that. I think that's something that's missing from my
I have a stash
knitting
of
detritus that I have all over the house.
I have stashes of lint rollers.
I only have like the bigger ones. They have the little tiny ones, like the travel lint rollers. I need to get some of those. Okay.
I just call it part of my wardrobe just to be covered.
Yes.
Mohair. No.
It's a style choice.
The fluff. It is.
Okay, because we're going to stick with the scrappy theme. Since I was making a scrappy sweater, I thought, well, what the heck? And I made scrappy socks too. So they actually kind of almost exactly.
Are they the same yarns?
A lot of them are, but some of them aren't. But they still end up in the same palette because this is the palette I always knit in. And so anyway, I made some scrappy socks. I only put one on the sock holder, this thingy. Yeah, sock blocker. So they are just vanilla socks that I did a 2x2 rib and a slip stitch heel, kind of traditionally like what I normally do. But it was just so fun to put these together. And I started using the tutorial that Crazy Sock Lady, did on weaving in your ends for scrappy socks. And once I did that, I like knitting these more because I was trying too hard with my weaving in, and she just kind of simplified it. It's very simple, but she simplified the way that I was weaving in my ends. And so now on the inside of my sock, I have this. Here, I'm going to flip this one inside out. If I can. Apparently I can't. Anyway, I have this little column that you can see of my woven in stitches on the inside, where it, so it's not invisible on the inside, but on the outside, it looks very clean and tidy. Okay, that's staying that way now, but on the outside, it looks very clean and tidy. And so now that I've done that, I thought, oh, I can knit scrappy socks till the end of time now. It's fine. So anyway, that was fun.
Yeah, I do the weaving over the ends as I go a lot of the time on mine. And you do notice a little bit of a difference in the stitch size.
So tidy.
But that's about it. I do that a lot of the time, but I also don't mind weaving in ends because the last pair of scrappy socks I did, I'm trying to remember how many. I think it was something like 88 ends for the pair.
Oh, that would have been similar because there's two for every color. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 17. So that's 34 ends for one sock. Yeah. So yeah. I think that for me, the problem wasn't the weaving in ends, like the work of it. The problem was I didn't feel like I was getting a good finish on the outside. Oh, okay. So I was going to all that work, but then it didn't look really good on the outside. And so then you just don't want to do it. You don't want to go to the work if it's not going to give you the end result that you want. So I like the end result of that one. You'll sense a color theme as we continue. Apparently I've been using all these yarns for lots of things.
Okay, so I finished my sock blank socks, and I was going to show you the crinkly texture that you get from using sock blanks you know, and what I did is I soaked one and blocked it so you could see how nice and smooth it is, and then show you the other one. But this has relaxed over the last 3 months. So all it is it's just not blocked, but it doesn't really look that crinkly now. So if you're worried that a sock blank is going to result in a, you know, permanently crinkled sock, it doesn't, though I kind of think that would look cool. The sock blank itself, before it was knit into socks, had a very different appearance to it. And while these are pretty, they're very orangey. And I would say out of all the colors, besides brown, orange is probably my least favorite. I like corals and I like peachy colors, but this one's a little too, I don't know. It's just not my very favorite. Now, they are still beautiful and they're still hand knit socks. So I do love them and I will still wear them. It's just not like if I were to buy yarn overall that in a skein that I were to see this color, I wouldn't have picked it. Which is funny because the sock blank I held on to for several years because I thought it's too beautiful to use. I should have kept it in the sock blank, made it into a pillow.
That would be fun.
It's okay, not a big deal. Somebody said, oh, well, you could speckle over it the same colors. You know what? They're still pretty socks.
They are very pretty. I think they're lovely.
I did a 60 stitch sock, not 64, not 56, and I always knit from the cuff till I start the heel flap from the length of my palm, and then after I do the heel flap and I turn, then I actually knit it down the same length on the foot. I've talked about this before. Well, it doesn't look quite like it after sitting there for a long time, but then I know it fits my foot.
Nice.
That's how I do it. I don't count the rows. I just measure by my hand and then fold it in half, and that's how I measure mine.
That's awesome. I love it how everybody has their way of knowing their socks. Yeah. Somebody was asking me about knitting socks one day, just because you know, once you knit socks, a lot of socks, you don't really think about it. You just knit them. Yeah. You know, even you might think about the pattern you put on them or something, but the sock construction, you don't really have to think about. You just do it. Yeah. And so I apparently was knitting a pair of socks while I was conducting a meeting. And somebody asked me, they're like, how can you do that? And I was like, do what? Oh, yeah. I, you know, not really thinking about it. It's just second nature. But yeah, you just get to that way because you know your way. Yeah. And if you were to do it somebody else's way, it would be weird. You know your way. Okay. So this was so pretty. Fun. So we took a week-long family vacation this summer. We went camping and it was heavenly wonderful. We borrowed a friend's motorhome and just had the most wonderful time. And I had all of my kids with me on a family vacation in the summer. I think the last time that happened had to have been easily 15 plus years ago. I mean, it's been a long, long time. So I cast this on. This was my project that I took and worked on while I was on my trip. And this is the Fading Point Wrap by Joji Locatelli. And you're going to have to help me with this because it's big. So I started here. Dun, 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 moved along to there. And then it goes back the other way. This was so much fun to knit. Pick out 5 skeins, go crazy and have a blast with it. It is simple. It is beautiful. And I love the shape. It's like kind of this mega scarf kind of thing. I don't really wear a lot of shawls. I have so many shawls I've knit, but I don't really wear them. They're not easy to wear. And for me, this is very easy to wear. You can just drape it like this and let it hang and be glorious. But it's also really easy to just do the one wrap around like that. And you just have, I don't know, it just stays in place. But it's not, I don't know, sometimes things to get the length, in a lot of shawls that are wider in the center and longer, you get so much extra width here that it feels like it's coming up into my face.
And that's one thing that drives you crazy.
Yes, I don't like things in my face.
So I like cowls. You don't really care for cowls because I like things that come up to here that cover my whole neck.
Yes, and if I need to, I can tighten it up and make it do that. But, you know, most of the time I don't. I want the extra warmth kind of just by my neck, but not in my face. Anyway, I love it. I love how it turned out. I had yarn from Ruby and Roses. This one is Ruby and Roses, and so is...
Here, take it off. Let's see. Yeah. Go along.
All right. Start. So this one is Ruby and Roses, and I'm so sorry, but I don't remember the names of colorways right now.
I'm shocked, Emily.
I know, I don't.
I usually remember my colorways as well.
My brain has been filled up and then a lot of stuff spilled over and left. So Ruby and Roses. Then the next one is I know yours, and that one is
Snow Cone.
Snow Cone. And then this is another Ruby and Roses. That's the pink. And then this peachy one is something of mine that I can't remember what it is right now. I think that was a one of a kind, actually.
Because I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure this both the peachy one and this center one, this kind of yellowy green one, they're both one of a kind skeins that I dyed.
But you said what you were doing when you chose them is that you wanted to go through and pick out all of your most favorite.
Yes. Ones that I just loved so much, but that all went together. I have other favorites that didn't go in this, but oh, it's so fun. And I still feel like I do get that fade from the darker into the lighter, even though it's not a fade where it doesn't
have the complete color.
It's not a gradient, I should say. It definitely has its own. I mean, right in here, you've got that gradient effect, but oh, I just love it. Love it so much. And I was inspired to make this one because I knit that terrace wrap, the Pearl Soho terrace wrap out of Opera Dancer's Daughter, which is a similar shape. And I love that. And so I think that I will be doing more of the wrap style, shawls, wraps, whatever you want to say, the stole, you know, the big, huge rectangle, because that seems to me the thing that is most usable for me. I like that
shape a lot. I like that, or I like an elongated crescent so that it's not a deep crescent. Like, so it's, you know, it's narrow down to a more medium.
Like Joji Locatelli's Venezia pattern that just came out. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's kind of rectangular, and then it does get wider in the middle, but like not like this wide. And then it comes back out to a narrow rectangle with lace or kind of around the edges.
So I really love
that seems really fun
shawls.
to me.
I just don't use them as much.
Yeah.
For the same reason, because I feel like they're always shifting, which is why I like cowls, because they're not always shifting around. They just stay there, you know. Yeah. You can bend over and do stuff and you don't have an end coming loose. You don't have to wear a shawl pin. You don't have, but shawls are just so pretty.
Yeah.
They're just
well,
so
and there's
pretty.
something about this too, like even just being inside, you can wrap it around your neck and it's kind of out of the way, but you can lay it around your shoulders too. It's kind of like a blanket almost, and I love it.
I think the other thing is that I wear an apron 90% of the time. I have multiple aprons in most of my rooms. So I have kitchen aprons, then I have out in my sewing room, I have sewing and craft aprons, I have dyeing yarn aprons, and I have gardening aprons.
Yep.
And so I just switch from one to another, to another, to another. And so a shawl, there's just no way. That's not practical. Yeah. I want to be able to use the items and not have to fuss with them. So a cowl I can still put on with an apron. Or I can put on an apron with a cowl, like if I need to. I'm trying to think, when would I do that? I do that. Room, I do that in the winter time all the time.
For sure, yeah.
But I think that's the biggest thing is it needs to still be practical for me. Says the woman who wears white dresses.
Yes.
Who wears dresses for most things, not most things, but I'm almost.
I think
always
the difference
overdressed.
about practical means it fits the way you want it to feel,
Yes.
and it does what you want it to
Needs
do.
to function a certain way.
Yes.
But since I wear aprons, then I feel like wearing a white dress is
totally
perfectly
practical.
doable. Because
Exactly.
I've got an apron covering my beautiful white dress, so you never see the white dress anyways. So what's the point in even wearing clothes?
But then if you need to go to an English garden party at the drop of a hat, you're ready.
I'm ready.
So there you go.
I'm kind of like Marianne Dashwood. So that when anybody arrives, I can just hurry and take off the apron and I've been here all day, just beautiful like this all day long.
Oh, I love it. Hurry, look like you're completely impractical and never do anything useful. Okay.
Actually, Marianne never did she?
Yes, she did.
She did think useful things.
Yes, because Eleanor made her.
Yes, because Eleanor. I'm Eleanor. That's who I am. I'm not Marianne. I'm Eleanor. Okay. I have made more socks. I did this pair of socks from my blue jeans colorway. My mother requested a pair of socks, that I knit a pair of socks for her for a Christmas gift. Not to give to her to wear, but for her to give to somebody. And I mentioned this before. I do that because I love my mother. She's not getting a pair of socks for Christmas, but her doctor is. Anyways, so she wanted it to look like jeans. So I messed around until I got some. I even laid it on jeans to make sure it looked like jeans.
Definitely does.
So it depends on, your wash of jeans. But this is Emily's Gathering Shells sock pattern. And then this is the leftover fingering weight yarn from my daughter Nadia's Whittmore sweater. So I showed Ella's Whittmore sweater, and this is the colorway for Nadia's. And I can't remember what I called that. It was peaches and cream, I think. I don't think I've dyed it for sale, I don't think. I think I've just dyed it for myself and that I've given to some people. But it looks pretty.
It's very pretty.
What
a lovely pattern.
I actually just used the lace pattern because just like Emily was saying, I have my pattern of how I knit socks, so I don't have to think. If I'm following someone else's pattern, I have to think really hard about it. So that's when people talk about their sock recipe. So I just plugged in Emily's lace pattern in my sock recipe. And the sock recipe consists of a certain type of a cuff, a certain type of a heel, a certain type of a heel flap, a certain type of toe decrease. And so I just plugged in her lace pattern for this. But I know that Emily and I are extremely
very similar
in the ways that we construct our socks because I learned from Emily and I liked it. I've just
found your
a
own
little bit
tweaks,
here and there and found what works best for me. But Emily and I do things still very, very similar. So I don't know if our gauge is still the same, but for a long time we almost couldn't even tell the difference between our gauge.
I know you could pick up one of my projects and on it, or I could do that to you and you would not be able to tell.
I don't think that I'd do that on a garment, but on just about anything else I don't think you'd even notice. So I didn't have much yarn left. I didn't think maybe I used this for something else. I just have this little ball here. It's been so long. Normally when I knit socks, because I also did contrasting cuffs, heels, and toes. I normally have
are those
40 or 50 grams left. What size are these? These are a women's size 8.
But like how many stitches did you
64
do?
stitches. And normally I have this was a 50 gram skein.
Oh, well, there you go.
I did a 50 gram skein and had this much left. That's why.
That explains it. I'm like, that's a lot of.
I bought a whole bunch of 50 gram skeins because I always have, I said 40 to 50. I always have 50 to 60 grams of yarn left when I do it this way, when I do
with the
contrasting. And I'm like, that is a lot of yarn to just have set aside for something else. And I'm not one that I really knit a second pair of socks in that same yarn. Sometimes I will.
So you don't need a scrappy sweater and scrappy socks and scrappy this.
And so I have a bin full of all of these 40 to 60 gram skeins, balls of yarn that I love because I love the yarn, obviously enough to knit something with it. And trying to decide what I'm going to do with them all, because I am not a huge scrappy person. Like, I love making scrappy things, don't love wearing scrappy things. So I found ways that I love it. I found it, but then I've discovered most of the time when I make something, it uses like this much of the scraps, and I'm like, I am going to have this till the end of time. So I wanted 50-gram skeins for that reason, so I don't end up with too much extra.
I love that. That's a great idea.
That's why I bought a whole bunch of 50-gram, and I even have been selling some of those lately for that reason, because I'm sure I'm not the only one.
I love that. All right, another pair of socks. So I have started buying way too much self-striping sock yarn.
I thought you didn't even like self-striping sock yarn.
I go through these weird phases, and I just keep getting attacked by desire for self-striping sock yarn. I have bought several things from Freckled Whimsy, some from Vesper Sock Yarns, and this one I believe is a Freckled Whimsy, and it was because I saw it on the Spas Tricot. They were showing it, and it's called You Had Me at Tricot. That's what the name of the colorway is. And I think it's way cuter to do self-striping socks with, self-striping socks with a contrast. But I grabbed this to knit while I was at Summit. So I needed like a no-brainer. I just grabbed a ball of yarn, grabbed needles, and walked out the door. So I didn't have it when I was working on that. So I just did them beginning to end with
and they're actually cute. While I like the contrast, because it's fun, you get to add more colors in it, and that's a fun pop of color. But I think that this is more wearable. Probably. As in, it doesn't have a whole bunch of extra stuff
I think that the thing I like better about the contrast is, for some reason, I feel like the contrast shows off the yarn better. Like, I feel like this looks more like just kind of boring every day than it would.
Commercial. It looks like something that you buy from the store, which a lot of times you're like, well, very nice, because look how beautiful that is. You can't even tell that that's handmade. And you're like, what? I just spent how many hours? I want it to be look handmade.
So I think that with the other ones, I will do contrasts. But I get what you're saying. Yeah, and they'll be really nice. But anyway.
I love it.
So they're just very simple vanilla
I
socks.
think they're beautiful.
We always say vanilla socks, which I know there's several vanilla socks. And the whole point is stockinette. They're stockinette basic socks. But they will be great. And it's coming into time to wear all of our hand knits. So I've got to get on that. But I think with all of the striping sock yarn I've bought, that I'm going to do maybe some stripy socks for all my family for Christmas and make them do all stripes. The only ones I don't have good stripy yarn for my boys, but I have a set right here they're all like denim colors.
Oh, okay.
That I could do for at least for one of my boys. And then I'll need to figure out, I know I have one for Richard. So the only other one I have to figure out for Isaac. Isaac has gigantic feet. So I'm going to need like a skein and a half of yarn, I think, for him. His feet are huge.
But you know what? He loves fun colors.
Yeah, I could do kind of
plaid
crazy
shirts. So I'm thinking like some of the colors that you have in your sweater, because match some of his really like sherbet kind of colored shirts.
Yeah, he's definitely a fun and
he would be really fun with those.
They're just going to be really big because first of all, he has size 12s, but they are like double extra wide. So he's like tree trunk legs.
But he really loved when you made him socks before.
Yes.
You didn't think that he'd really care about it, but
he did.
It really mattered to him.
He's a sentimental kid, and so things that are handmade really mean something to him. So I'm definitely I better get rolling on that because now I have an extra person to do for as well. So yeah, if I'm going to do socks for everybody, the time has come, hasn't it?
The time has come, my little friend. Okay. I have chicken legs, meaning my ankles are scrawny. I don't think that they're ugly. I have very beautiful and shapely chicken legs. I think my legs look, they look fabulous. They're just skinny. And so a traditional 64 stitch sock is just too big. And a 56 stitch sock, which is you usually have like 56, 64, 72. Mm-hmm. So 56 is just too small. So I usually do a 60 stitch sock. But there are no sock patterns for 60 stitches. There may be, but I'm not going to spend an eternity searching for them. And I don't use Ravelry, so that does change the way I function in searching for them and the availability. So I just decided it was going to take me less time to design my own. So here's my chicken leg socks. Cute. I couldn't come up with a name for it, and everybody, my friends liked the chicken legs, but I thought that there may be a series of them, so I don't know what would come after that. So
just name them after different chickens. Like bantam socks, and
we had lots of chickens. I actually
don't know what all the different.
Yeah, we had lots of chickens. We loved our chickens. They were fun. I miss my chickens.
You could also do like frog leg socks, and I don't know, name them after different animals.
So, I'm debating on writing this up just because of the fact that I don't like writing patterns. I just don't like doing it. So I've been thinking about it. I have it all, like my own notes, but that's one thing. It's one thing to have notes that make sense to me, and it's another thing to write a pattern that's going to translate across the board to make sense to, the majority of other people. That's a completely different thing, especially in a streamlined way without having 46 pages, just because for me, I just have some jotted down little notes that I could look at that and I could knit this pair of socks without having to think about it. To write it for somebody else, another story. So it has this lacy pattern on the front that goes all the way down the front, and then it has some of the isolated pattern down the back, and then I did the stripe detail on here, which I would change slightly for the pattern, and then I did my regular slip stitch heel flap, heel turn, gusset, and then under the bottom of the foot I added in some slip stitches to create a more dense fabric on the ball of the foot to help it with wearing longer. I had somebody ask on one of our sock knitting videos recently if you could do that on the entire bottom of the foot, and my advice was that yes, you could, but what happens when you do this kind of a pattern is that it has slip stitches and it makes it tighter this way. It shortens the length of it, but the top wouldn't be shortening. So you would end up with kind of a bubbled effect. I don't know if that makes sense. Like the bottom would be pulled in.
It also shortens this way.
It does shorten. It does shorten it both directions.
You lose the stretch.
Yeah.
A lot of the stretch.
Yeah, you do. And so the top of the foot would be a completely different size than the bottom of the foot. And in order for you to get the bottom of the foot big enough, the top of the foot's going to be different. But I was suggesting just put it in the areas that have the highest wear. So that would be just the heel turn portion right here, and just the ball of the foot.
We don't tend to wear holes in the arch of our...
Yeah. And I have very often put it on under the heel turn here, but I haven't really noticed an issue in any of my family's socks here, but I have noticed it here. So that's why I have it on that part. This yarn was a beautiful set of yarn. This was from Biff Sugar Yarns, and it was the Castaway sock set. Oh my goodness.
It is really pretty.
Gorgeous. It was so hard to decide when I looked on her shop which one, but it's so pretty.
That is really beautiful.
Yeah, I love it. I love the speckling. The colors are gorgeous. Just the whole thing. And then this bright pop of color is stunning. I love it. And then I realized the reason that I like this so much, I went and was looking through scraps for another project, and I had like 3 other balls of colors like this almost identical. Apparently, I really like this kind of an orange versus this. That's
Yeah, it's more candy. That's
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
Yes.
It's like
love
sherbety.
It is. It's beautiful. So good job. Thank you for the beautiful production of yarn that you are creating that makes us all happy.
That's lovely.
All right. Do you have any
All
more
right.
finished objects?
I have a couple of, I do. So I want to talk about this. Where are you going to be talking about these?
After this.
Okay, so I'll wait on that.
Okay.
So I have a couple of sewing projects. I don't do as much sewing as Deborah does because Deborah sews in a way that, like, you sew because you enjoy the process of sewing.
Yeah.
And I kind of do, but mostly I just want what I get at the end. But I decided...
It's very satisfying to press a seam smooth.
Yes.
And to have a perfectly even, like, top stitch. Oh, it's so satisfying.
It is. It really is.
Love the process of that.
So I've been working on improving some of my tools and things like that so I could enjoy that. So for my birthday, I got a new cutting mat and ruler and rotary cutter because mine were just old and worn and smaller than what I wanted. Although the ruler I got, I don't love. So I'm probably still going to get another one. The other thing I did is I also got a wool pressing mat and a mini iron so I could keep it right next to my machine to press little seams because mostly what I want to sew I want to do more quilts and things like that.
I think we're gymnasts.
I know. This happened last time. My kids, and your child, I believe,
Yes.
are running around upstairs right above us. But if I remember correctly, you couldn't hear it. So I'm just going to pretend like it's not happening. But there's elephants right
We live
there.
in a house with people.
Yes. So the other thing that I decided to sign up for Annie's Creative Quilters Fabric Club. I'm going to take this out of the bag so you can actually see it. So this is what it is. Annie's Creative Quilters Fabric Club. And so every month you get a little kit. This one came with these 6 fat quarters and then a pattern to make from it with all the instructions on how to do it. And so it came in the mail. And then the next day I just did it. I just sat down and I did it. And I made this table. It's not really a table runner. It's kind of small for a table runner. Calling it a table mat.
It's pretty. It's very pretty.
And I'm holding it. Am I holding it upside down?
I like the fabrics.
So the little birds in the center are fussy cut so you can see them.
So you get this every month?
So every month I'm going to get a kit that has the curated collection. And for me, it's helpful because it's no brainer. It's the actual fabrics that you got and it tells you what to put where, which fabric and how to cut. I'm going to show you this.
Are they all table mats?
No, it's just a variety of different
Projects.
things. So I'm guessing there'll be some bags. I'm sure there'll be plenty of things like this, though.
That'd be such a fun gift subscription for somebody.
So it tells you, take this fabric, this very specific one right there, and cut it in this many pieces. And, so that's really helpful for me. I know how to do a lot of things, and I've made quilts and all kinds of stuff. The problem is that when I sit down, I go, I really want to make something. There's too many possibilities. There's too many ideas out there. And I get stuck in the idea place and I never actually do it.
You never move from the idea place to the...
Yes.
The
so I would not necessarily have gone and picked out these specific fabrics. But I really like this. And actually I got new curtains in my dining room. And this goes really well with them. So it's been really pretty. It's been on my table and I really enjoyed it. The other thing is I gave myself permission to imperfectly machine quilt it on my machine. Well, you can't see it at all, but
see it very well.
I just quilted around the like a block of 4. Let's see if I could show you anywhere. You can see kind of on in this. So that's just really imperfectly quilted. And then I actually finished it and used it. And look at my corners, Deborah. I did good corners this time. They're not perfect,
I love a good
but I did a good corner this time.
That is one thing I aim to achieve. That's a beautiful corner, Emily. That's a beautiful corner.
It's a little thing.
It's okay. It's beautiful.
They're definitely better.
The other thing I like about kits like this is that it gives you something that you may not have picked out to work
Exactly,
with.
yeah.
Because I know what I like, and I find those things. I love working with them, but I do feel like I often kind of get stuck in that same thing all the
Which
time.
is why my 3 objects here are all in the same yarn.
At the same time, I really love it. There's a reason why I do the same things, because I love it. But it's nice to do something that somebody else has picked out that you wouldn't have necessarily done, and to finish it and go, yeah, I do like that. And then the other thing is, if it's not your favorite, it is somebody else's favorite.
Yeah.
And so then, set it aside for a gift. I really, really like that idea.
So one of the things that attracted me about this is that they use good quality fabric. So they're using Moda. This one is Wyndham, which I'm not as familiar with, but they use Moda. They use, Riley Blake. They use different fabrics that are good brands, good quality. So I like the quality of the fabric that I got, because that's one thing. You don't want to sew with cheap. It's just like knitting with, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying that it's a lot of the times more pleasurable to use those nice
ones that feel nice,
quality,
that you enjoy the feel
sharp, when you press them, they're nice and sharp. And anyway, so it's imperfect, but I had a lot of fun making it, and it made me definitely want to do more. So I'm really excited about this subscription. I'll just say, along with that, one of the other things I did is I finally broke down and made some masks. And I have to show them because they're so cute. Because look how cute these fabrics are. Like the double fabric,
It is
double-sided. And this one's vintage sheets.
Oh, yeah, you've made bags.
I've made several things out of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I finally pulled out some of my favorite little bits and have made some cute masks. I have resisted that for a long time and kind of been wearing the same 2 masks and just having to wash them all the time. And finally I'm like, you know what? The time has come. So
time has come, my little friend. Okay, wait, that's the second time I've said
yes, the time has come multiple times for multiple things.
The time is now. Okay.
All right.
I have continued making wondrous dishcloths because they're wondrous. Jules, well done. This is a pattern by Jules of So Sweet Violet, and I have shown many of these because I have made lots of these, and I am ridiculous and keep buying cotton yarn to make more because, like the amount that I had to make 40 before was not enough, so now I have enough to make like 40 more. I just really like them and I want to give them to everybody. So I've made 3.
Those
and
are
I've been
cute
using
colors.
However you say this. Everybody, I'm sure you've seen it and heard everybody slaughter the word, so I won't slaughter it. I will just show it to you. And I've made these 3 colors so far.
Those are cute. They're very vibrant.
I've got a bag that is my wondrous dishcloth bag, and it has the needles and it has the pattern in it and the stuff that I use for it, and I just throw in 1 or 2 of these and just take them when I need a simple project that I don't have to really think about, and then I just throw in some more when I finish that. I had a sweet friend gift me a nice stash of this yarn, and then I have purchased some more cotton yarn from Hobby. Hobbii.
Yes, I think so.
And I haven't used that one yet because I still have these little beautiful mini skeins that are so pretty.
Stash of that Hobby.
Yeah.
Way too much.
Yeah, we were talking about that this morning, that we need to be stopped.
Yes, nobody let us buy any more Hobby yarn.
Must be stopped.
Where is it from? It's from Netherlands?
I thought Denmark.
Denmark?
If I remember correctly.
And it gets here in like 3 days.
So that my first 2 orders from them took a ridiculously long amount of time. It was like 4 weeks or something. I say it's a ridiculously long amount of time. In today's world,
right, when we're used to the instant
before
delivery.
That wasn't. And then all of the others have been here faster than domestic.
I know, they came so fast.
Really fast. But I have a problem because when you go on to Hobby, you're kind of like, well, I'm ordering from out of the country. We got to make it worth it.
Right. So I might as well order 15.
And I only do it when
20.
they have like their sale. So it's a really good price.
Which are really good sales.
Like really good sales. And then, you get to a certain point and you're like this close to free shipping. So just get the free shipping because that will just cover, the yarn. Anyways, so I have a ridiculous amount of acrylic baby yarn for baby hats.
Yeah.
I don't even know that many babies that are being born, but I have enough to knit the world's supply of baby hats. And then I have a nice, healthy stash of cotton yarn for dishcloths.
And I still have a bunch of this put aside. And then I have a bunch that I got from Hobby. So I'm like,
these are still my favorite though because they're so cute. They're so cute.
But they're the same size skeins, aren't they?
These are, no, I
bought these are
bigger
25.
ones. These are 25 grams.
The Hobbies are 50. That's right.
Yeah. And these are just the right
adorable.
size. So...
Which means basically I have double the amount that I thought because I can knit double the amount of dishcloths with them.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Work on this pompadour thing here.
Okay, Deborah, fix your pomp. There you go.
Anyways, okay, dishcloths.
Sorry, we're getting goofy.
Everybody's like, if we were to tell the youth, back when we were first starting to podcast, we were told the youth that we were working with that we started a knitting podcast, and they would just look at us like, what?
Casey just started laughing, and he said, I said, why is that so funny? He goes, you're Queen Emily. You're not like knitting podcast lady.
Yeah. It was so funny. And then they wanted to be on the podcast just because it was so ridiculous to them.
Yeah, that we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah, and we're not like old ladies talking about knitting dishcloths.
Yeah, we are.
Yes.
Yes, we are. You know what? We embrace it. It is good. We like it.
I'm happy to knit dishcloths. When my husband saw me starting to just knit piles of these, he's like, so we're doing dishcloths now, are we?
Yes.
I'm like, yes. Just embrace it. So
go with it, honey. It's attractive. You like it. Okay, Deborah, let's talk about this.
Okay. So I told you how I hate making patterns. Well, I do. But this one was a very, very quick and simple one to write up. So I decided I didn't need just one pumpkin. I needed a basket full of pumpkins.
So cute. They're so cute.
So 2 weeks ago, maybe, I decided I wanted to knit pumpkins. And I've seen them all over online. And I'm sure that there's a lot of free ones. There's a million patterns. Like I said before, the time for searching and finding the one that I wanted took more time than making up my own. Mm-hmm. So I sat down while I was watching our church's general conference and just knit a pumpkin. I'm like, I'll just sit there and figure it out. And I just knit that while I was watching. And it turned out so cute, but I was like, I need to tweak it just a little bit. So I was tweaking it and I took a picture and then I was like, I think I'm going to make some more. And next thing I know, I'm writing a pattern for it and I have knit 12 pumpkins. So there's 3 different sizes. Here's the large.
Super cute.
And then the medium. Oh, here's a medium. And here's the small. So large to the small. And what I like about this is because I was talking about the stash of extra yarn that I have from other projects, that I have a bin full of them. And I love them all so much. But knitting scrappy socks and some of the things that I like, like the cowl that I was doing, uses such small amounts that I'm never going to make my way through it, especially with all the new stuff I'm adding to it from finishing projects. So this one you hold, whatever weight yarns you have together to achieve the weight that I talked about in the pattern. It's like 4 to 6, the equivalent of 4 to 6 fingering weight strands of yarn.
For the small.
And for the large, it's 5 to 7 approximately, and it's very.
But you
approximate.
can make that up with worsted.
But
and
if you have
DK
worsted, so I had a worsted and I had 2 DK and I had a fingering for one, and for others I had only fingering, which I had only 3 fingering in this, so I wound it into a cake and pulled from the inside and the outside together to get a DK weight, and I just used what I had. And these are going to actually be gifts for my neighbors. So I'm going to go get a little packet of spice cider, apple cider kind of thing to give with it, and just to give to my neighbors because Everybody needs a little bit of
You
love.
put an actual squash stem on that one.
I did.
That's so great.
I had a squash, and I was cooking with it, and I cut it off. I actually have another one. It's not in here. I have another stem.
That's so
so
fun. I
cut it
just
off
noticed that.
and glued it on. The other ones have
Cinnamon sticks.
Then the other thing, I didn't bring some of the gourds that I purchased because I have some that I purchased that, you know how they have different colors in between? I was thinking of holding it and doing color work.
Oh, fun.
Because the one I have is like almost a white pumpkin with dark orange in between. So I could do that and hold them and just...
Or orange with green, kind of go, yeah.
So let's see.
I made one too. And this is actually not glued in yet. I just grabbed this leaf. But we have a friend who made a leaf out of felt that then she embroidered. And I thought, oh, that's what I really want to do.
Yeah.
So I just put this on for today. However, I have a cautionary tale. So this is something to learn from my mistake.
Cautionary tale for knitting a pumpkin.
Yes. So first off, this pumpkin could be a lot larger. It's not stuffed as full as it should. I had this great idea that you could put poly pellets in it to weight it down. So I lined it with kind of the fiber fill and then put poly pellets in the middle.
So they wouldn't fall through anything?
No.
Oh, I keep finding them.
They fall through.
I was finding them and I'm like, what?
So I tried to squish out as many as I could.
They're still coming.
Because they're just falling out.
So poly
pellets are a no for your pumpkins.
You could do it if you sewed a little sachet.
I think you could even put fabric in it and put beans or something like that. But you would need something inside it because it's got little, it's got the little holes.
Yeah.
So anyway, don't use the poly pellets because now I will clean up poly pellets till the end of time. And I had already woven everything in and everything. So I can't really get into it without causing destruction. So it's just going to be a messy little pumpkin. But I squeezed out a lot of the poly pellets. I tried to get all the ones that were trying to come out.
Poly pellets are a hard no.
So anyway, but it's so cute.
It is cute. It's very cute.
And the cinnamon smells really good. And it's just going to stay right there on my little shelf right up here.
So that pattern is in my Etsy shop, which is linked below. So if you want that, I listed it for sale yesterday.
They're so fun.
You can just use what you have. You don't have to, except for poly pellets.
Don't use poly pellets. It was funny because I started knitting that and Richard comes in and yesterday he had the day off and we had run some errands together and we were at a store yesterday and I didn't notice, but there were knitted pumpkins for sale at the store. And Richard said, oh, did you get that idea from this store? And I said, no, I didn't even notice those. This is Deborah's pattern. And I just thought that was funny because they really are super popular this year. Yeah. Super popular.
Well, I've made them before where you take old sweaters and you cut the sleeves and stuff them.
Yours are just so cute.
But this way you can knit them because we like to knit and you can use your scraps and you can blend colors together to get what you want. So it's fun.
Yeah, that was fun too. I really liked having because I did mostly kind of cream and peachy and orange yarns. But then I put your carousel color in here, which is very much, it's this one right here. It's this color that's got some bright speckles in it. It's got some blues and greens and neons kind of almost. Yeah. And it just looks so cute in there. And that's very similar.
Are very similar.
Well, that's the picture that I was going off of. So.
Yeah. And anyway. I had one that was white with really bright colored speckles.
Which I love because if you look at gourds, they're so colorful. They are not just orange.
And so these are all different colors. Even though I've used a lot of the same yarns in each of them, I just changed out a couple here or there. Like this one has a worsted weight, mauve color. And this one I put more orange in. And this one I put more white in. So
I love it. They're so
you can just
fun.
use what you have.
Good job, Deb. And I have to just say her patterns, you say you don't like to knit or you don't like to write the patterns, but you do a stunningly beautiful job at it.
Thank you.
Very clear and designed so cute. You want to just look at it. It's so cute. So well done.
That's all my finished
I think that's all my finished objects too. Yes.
We're now
same.
I don't know, 17 hours in. Go to the bathroom, get a drink.
Get some popcorn. We still have more to go.
Because now it's time for works in progress.
Projects in progress.
It's time for more stuff.
All right, I have 4.
And I've got 4.
Okay, let's start.
I'll start. I got one right here.
Go for it. Good.
Okay. We were talking about Christmas coming up. Christmas is coming up. And this year I'm like, I'm not going to knit things for people.
Don't we say that every year?
I knit the socks for my mom's doctor. So my mom isn't getting
So you're
socks.
off the hook.
So my mom isn't getting socks, but her doctor is. I love my mother. I don't know what it is. I don't love knitting socks for people. I don't know. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a jerk. Okay.
No.
I just have too many things I want to make.
Yeah.
So I stick with the people that I know and love. Okay. So but then I was thinking that, I have time. Maybe I'll knit some. So I cast some things on. If they get done for Christmas, great. If they don't, I'm really not worried about it. But it has kind of become a tradition that in their stocking they get a hand knit item from me. But I'm not really worried about it. So anyways, my girls, let's see, they've all picked out yarn, or they've picked out things that they've told me things that they wanted over the years. So this is yarn that Nadia picked out like 2 years ago from Willow Hill Yarn Company, and it's one of their hand-dyed yarns that's called Fairy Wings. And she picked this one out because she loved the colors, but you can't really tell that it has a silver stellina in it. It's sparkly. So she picked this one out and wanted me to knit her a unicorn, and I told her I don't want to knit a unicorn with a $30 skein of yarn.
How dare ye?
I'm like, I'll go get some acrylic yarn to knit you a beautiful unicorn. But this hand-painted yarn needs to be showcased in something more beautiful than that. So all my kids want more shorty socks. So I'm knitting some shorty socks. So I've cast on, I've done the cuff, I've done like a knit row, purl row, knit row, and then I'm doing the heel flap, and now I'm ready for the heel turn. So that's how I do mine. I don't do I don't do a longer cuff. I just do like 15 rounds for the cuff, just those 2-3 rows that I said, and then the heel flap. And then I go right into the foot. And when I'm done, I always add in a row of the elastic thread on the top and the bottom just to help keep it tight. So that's how I make my shorty socks. And that's what the girls like. I used to do a shorter heel flap because we were trying to make them a little more no-show, and a shorter cuff, but they were slipping too much. So I've lengthened the cuff just a bit and I just have the regular length heel flap, which is 15 rows of slip stitches for me. That's what I typically do. Nice. So it takes like no time. Like doing a pair of shorty socks takes the same amount of time almost as doing one sock. So I feel like that's not that big of a deal. And that's what my kids prefer. So can't go wrong with that.
I know. I wonder why I don't do more shorty socks. That's kind of really silly of me.
Yeah, my kids like it even in the winter. I want to be warm. I don't want to be warm everywhere except for my ankles. I want my ankles to be warm too.
I like shorty socks for around the house too. Like sometimes it doesn't, like my outfit, I might be wearing shoes that I wouldn't wear socks with when I go out of the house. But I like shorty socks for in the house.
We got new carpet last year in the basement, and I discovered that it was felting the bottom of our socks.
Oh no.
It's a really high pile and really nice and dense. And so it was doing that for the cheaper, more commercial yarns like Felici yarns. Those were all felted.
Interesting.
The ones that you typically purchase from yarn dyers, those were all fine. So I stopped knitting with the Felici and the other ones that my kids have already picked out. So
well, and Felici kind of felts anyway, but I guess there's nothing really too bad about felting your socks. I mean,
other than the fact that it's so stiff that it doesn't flex as nice, and it's not as soft and cushy.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, fun adventures.
And then my cute little bag. I love, this is probably one of my favorite bags that I've ever made.
Really cute one.
And I put some of my favorite Disney pins. And I used to like rotate which ones I put on here, but I just love these ones so much. So I just kept these on. And it has like a clear back. And then I have a matching, where is it? I have a matching little zipper pouch that goes in it. That has a little Disney castle on it. I don't know what happened to that. Oh, I put it in the wrong bag. That's why.
Oh, cute.
I love this bag.
That's so
I made
adorable.
that one years ago for when we went to Disneyland.
It really is adorable. It's so cute.
I was just looking for a stitch marker.
Well, I love the ruffle. The ruffle is my favorite. I mean, well, the ruffle combination, yeah.
I love the bow.
So fun.
It sparkles. Okay.
All right, I am knitting a pair of monkey socks. It's one of those patterns I just come back to over and over again. I think this might be my 5th pair of monkey socks. I always knit them without the purl stitches, so no purl monkey socks. Free pattern on nitty.com. And it's just a really fun, easy to memorize and just zip through it kind of pattern. I'm knitting this with yarn from the lovely Sherry Iris. Oh, she's just a gem. So this is Sherry Iris in the Elizabeth colorway. And I believe this is referring to Elizabeth Bennet, as it should. I don't know if you can tell, but there's also, you can't really tell it. There's lots of silver stellina in this as well. So these are lovely and glittery. It's a shame they don't show up on the camera, but it's lovely and glittery in person, but subtle glittery, not, you know, blind you and you have to go to Vegas to wear them kind of glittery. And this is
That's my kind of glittery.
I like that kind of glittery too.
Yeah, I like that kind.
And this is in my bag also from Sherry. Oh, it is just, this is honestly, I have 3 bags that are kind of my, I love to put anything in those bags. And this is one of them. It says the Earth Laughs and Flowers, hand embroidered linen with Liberty print on the inside. Oh, it's just the best. And this is why my yarn smells so good. It's because it has a little lavender sachet. Oh, it makes me so happy. I think that there's nothing happier in the knitting world than when you get to knit something with beautiful products that come from friends.
Oh, yeah.
You know, whether it's made by them or gifts from them. That's like my happiest combination.
It's the happy association instead of the sick association.
Yes. So I just adore it. You know, when you have little, I have little charms that have come from friends or yarn, even if it's not yarn that they made or anything, but it's a gift.
Picked out for you.
Yeah, it's just got that special extra thing.
Very nice.
Oh, I love it. It's got a little bee charm on there. Just so fun. Makes me so happy.
Squeaky chair.
Okay. I love this bag.
On to more Christmas stuff.
Yay.
So Ella picked out yarn I never in a million years would have imagined she would pick out. So
this looks like a naughty.
Yeah, so I'm glad she picked it out because I never would have for her. I love this. Speaking of lovely friends, this was a gift from a sweet friend for my birthday, and it was from a viewer, and it is by Artistic Lily, and the yarn is Birthday Confetti.
That is cute yarn.
And it has this adorable birthday cupcake charm that goes with it. It is so pretty and so fun. And Ella pulled it out and said, I don't have many pastel things. But I'm like, I wouldn't consider this pastel, but I guess, yes, it's pastel neons, which is really...
kind of, yeah, like if you kind of blur your eyes at it, it's pastel.
Yeah, because it's still very vibrant colors, just more blips of really vibrant colors, but then they kind of blur out into some pastel-y. But when she was pulling it out, she's like, well, what is it for? And I said, well, it depends on what yarn you pick, because I just wanted to make her something for Christmas. And she's like, well, this would make a nice hat. So I'm like, okay, I'm making her a hat. I'm like, it's fingering weight yarn. So I thought for a good hat, I'd either want to hold mohair with it or hold it double. And I'm holding it double. And once again,
You're pulling from the inside and outside of the ball,
and outside. Right? Yep. It takes me more time to find a pattern than to create one. So
sometimes that's how it is.
I cast on, and I've got it on waste yarn because I have notes from my own like patterns from things that I've made in the past for like how many stitches to cast on with what needles and for a basic like hat recipe. And I crossed out one number and above it wrote another number. I wrote down 70, but I also crossed out needles and wrote down different needles. And I couldn't remember if they went together or if they were independent of each other. So I just was like, well, I wrote those notes, let's trust it. But then as I'm knitting it, I'm like, this seems pretty small. So I put it on waste yarn to put it on, and it's not like brain sucking tight, but it is tight. So I'm going to undo it, and I'm going to go with my original cast on number.
Are you doing a seed stitch?
So this is it depends on who you talk to. I'm calling this one a broken seed stitch because seed stitch can be knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one, and the next row you alternate. Or I've also seen it where you do one row of knit and then you do knit one, purl one, then one row of knit, and then. But I've also heard that called broken seed stitch. So that's what I'm doing is the broken seed stitch. Now the thing that I'm like, what is this yarn gonna do? Because I've heard it referred as space dyed, where if you look at the skein opened up, it'll have a big strip of one kind of color and then another strip of another one. And those are the types that will very often pool. Well, this one was pooling with this pattern, with this stitch count in such a perfect way.
You were going to get a spiral, weren't you?
If you were to look at the top of the hat, it would be like a candy spiral up the top of the hat.
Man.
And that would have been just perfect. But now that I'm going to add stitches, I'm concerned that instead it's going to flash, which is where you'll get groupings of colors, not necessarily in a good pattern, but in flashes of colors. So we'll see, because I don't like when the yarn flashes, but I love if it will pool into certain patterns. And this one would just be so pretty because the blue and then the peachy pink will just, we're spiraling just perfect. We'll see what happens.
I don't think it's going to flash adding stitches.
What it means is that it's not going to travel as far around. And with this, the reason why it makes a spiral is that every time I knit, the blue ends up just slightly further and slightly further and slightly further. But with more stitches, it won't be reaching as far. Each time. And so they could stack up on top of each other instead of spreading out across. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just going to try it and see. I mean, this took me an hour to do last night because I was watching Stranger Things. So I was like this.
Maybe that's also why it's small.
Could be.
Maybe you need to watch,
but this is how I watch Stranger Things.
Monty Don's Gardening World or something to
then
get
this would never get done again. Okay.
I love Monty.
I do like gardening stuff. But this is how I watch Stranger Things, is I watch with a project and I knit down here and I tell my husband to tell me when to look. So I see a lot of my project
I do
more
the same
than
thing,
watching
but I'd be
show.
knitting it and then I would be like, I think you have to watch it like this. Hold it up, peek over.
So this project could have been done in a day, but
That's
now
fun.
It's going to take more time.
Cute tin, by the way. I like that little tin.
Got it from Michael's. It was my pumpkin knitting bin. But I have reached my limit of knitting pumpkins.
Oh, have you? You've hit the limit.
I still have yarns pulled out for more, but
I have just begun my pumpkin knitting journey. I better get on a move on.
I did like
October
11 or
15th.
something, and I have one more. I might just do this one more that's already in a little thing with the I might.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, that's
Commit,
what I've
Deborah.
I know.
You just have to
11
commit.
was not committing.
All right, next up is this sweater. Let me get the pattern to the front page. I love this pattern. I don't love the pictures they chose to put in the pattern because it doesn't show the sweater off the way the other pictures do. But this is called Grace. And the designer is Ririko, Ririko. And it is a slightly A-line open cardigan, fingering weight. Where's that other picture? Yeah, you just don't see you can't tell what's happening in the back, which is where the magic is. But it's got cable panels that run down the front here, and then cables that go down the back, but then they split out and then go down the sides. And I am knitting this in a new colorway of mine that I have not yet released, but it is a colorway and it's called Vanity Fair.
Wait, I thought you have released this one.
No, I've shared pictures of it, but it's not on my website yet.
Okay.
I want you to see. That one wasn't really showing up. There's some really vibrant purples, and you're not really seeing that in the camera, but there's some chartreuse greens flecked in there as well. And it's really hard to show sweaters because they get all bunched up while you're knitting them.
Yeah. Oh, and then we lost it.
It's okay. I might just leave it on the ground. It'll fall again anyway. But I'm to the point where I have put the sleeve stitches on hold, and now I'm knitting the body. So this is what I have so far.
Do you want the other side? I'll hold this side.
And I'm in the process, let's turn it around to the back. I'm in the process now of doing the stitches that move these two cable panels from the center and start separating them out, because then they move over and go down the side. Well, not this side exactly, but you know, they separate out and they kind of do this thing to nicely frame your bottom and make it look even wider than it actually is, which is a little bit what I'm afraid is going to happen.
To nicely frame and make it look wider.
I think that's what's going to happen.
It's not the typical aim, unless
no, it isn't. Maybe this will just be a nice oversized cardigan for you, to nicely frame your bottom and make it look wider. But anyway, it's a lot of fun. But I have to say, I kind of had a moment where I had been working on it a lot, and well, okay, rewind. I'm alternating skeins on this pattern. And oh, I'm doing such a good job now. You can't see where it is.
Yay!
Well, you kind of can, but very barely. I'm alternating skeins right here in this line right here. Because the border of, normally I would do that at the beginning of the row, but it has a built-in like I-cord finish that's going along the neckline. And I could not make that work there, because you really depend on the yarn from a slipped stitch, the row beneath, wrapping around and starting your next row. And so if you were to begin a new yarn there, you would lose the I-cord all along your one edge, your left side edge, at the beginning of a new row. And so that wasn't going to work for me. So I needed to alternate in the middle of the row. Well, I did about this much, that much, somewhere in there, of this pattern, alternating skeins the wrong way. And I did a whole thing on my Instagram stories, which I have saved there in case it's helpful to anybody else, about how to not do it the wrong way. And it's actually worked. So I was just neglecting the little twist of yarn that you have to do, and it was making it look awful. So I had to pull it back. So the whole point is I feel like I've been knitting on this sweater for way longer than I actually have, because I had to pull a chunk of it out and then redo it. I'm doing all my cabling without a cable needle because there are no cables that are larger than 2 stitches going over 1. So therefore it's really easy to do that, but it cables every right side row. So that means that it's just you have to pay a lot of attention every single row. There's not ever going to be a point in the sweater where you're like, oh, and now I'm to the part where you just zoom down the body or whatever, because there's cabling every row. So with that in mind, I have put it to sleep for just a little bit while I knit some shorter things. But oh, I'm excited to wear it. It's such a fun color, and I really do like the pattern. And I really like the sizing of the pattern. I feel like she has done a really good job making it available to lots of sizes, and it's very well written. My experience with it so far has been all positive. So that is really fun.
Oh, sorry. Okay. One more project that I've been working on. And I feel like I've been working on this forever, but I haven't really been working on it much. That's why. Oh, here it is. This is the Spring in LA sweater by Wool and Water Knits on Instagram. And this is just one of the images. I don't have the main image, but it is a fingering weight held with mohair body. And then the sleeves are bishop sleeves that are mohair with color work in them.
So pretty.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Yes. So I had to knit that. But I was working on my daughter's Whittmore sweater. And I am not one that's great on having multiple garments on the go. So I needed to finish the Whittmore sweater before I really focused on this one. So I finished the Whittmore sweater, and then we had like 7 bajillion other things come up. So I haven't done a lot. But I did get the back done, and then I've got it on stitch holders because this is the neck, and then we've got the armhole. So I've got the back done. Now, I did do some maths. I had to open up my brain, try and remember how to make all that stuff work again, because I have a very short torso. So the top of my hip, my waist, and the bottom of my ribs are all in the exact same place. So like if I just do that, my ribs touch my hips. So, you know, like I don't have a torso, okay? So that means that I need to adjust. I don't necessarily have curves. I did include some curving in here because, you know, I do have a backside. Minimal though it may be, I still have one. So I did do some adjustments there so that it didn't have as long of a torso and it didn't curve in quite as much. And because of that, I just pray that it will fit. You know what? It's a knit. It still stretches.
Exactly.
So not that big
Knits
of a deal.
are very forgiving.
And then I've got the front here, and I am working on the increases up to going to the armpit, and then it will be the sleeves because it's really the front and the back that's not really that big of a deal. It's the sleeves that are going to take the majority of knitting, and this has already taken me half of a year. So
well, you've knit on lots of other things.
So this is a long project, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get this done so I can wear it. But you know what? I'm just gonna work on it as I want to work on it. So I think what it is,
color's gorgeous.
That's the hardest part for me, is that I can't just take it with me and work on it because there's too much yarn management. So I've got 4 skeins of yarn going at all times because it's a fingering weight plus mohair held together, and I'm alternating skeins. So I've got them in 2 different baggies, and I, you know, can rotate those around to help manage that. But like I sit down to knit on it, and I've got to have my pattern out so I can see the pattern, and then I've got what I'm working on plus the bags. I like take half the couch, and my husband's like, so I won't be sitting near you today, right? Like, sorry, the yarn is everywhere. So I do like knitting in the round for the reason that it's so much easier to alternate skeins, in my opinion, using the what was I just saying? The helical knitting method. Because this one, you know, I'm alternating on the sides, and I just bring it up the side of the project. But I do like doing helical knitting. It's almost a no-brainer once you've done it, you know, once you've got it down. But, you know, it's nice. Like I finish a back and I'm like, ooh, finished object. And then I do the front, ooh, finished object.
There's something nice about knitting in pieces and seaming for that purpose.
Yeah.
Because you kind of feel like you can just knit the next piece, piece.
But with hand-dyed yarn, you've really got to alternate if you don't want to have differences in, because even if it's dyed in the exact same pot at the same time, one side of the pot may have a little more dye that gets there than on the other side, or whatever.
Or it may have heated unevenly.
Or it's just you just want to alternate. But that's also part of the beauty of it, is that you don't have just this 100% solid. You know, it's nice to get that subtle variation.
So pretty.
So I'm just using bare mohair for the sleeves because I really liked that in the picture. I didn't do black, but this is colorway that I dyed for this. And I've called it Mermaid Lemonade and I listed some of the mohair in this color in my shop. And these I used 50 gram skeins because I was thinking that, 50 grams for the front and 50 for the back and 50 for a sleeve and 50 for a sleeve, and like that'll make it nice and easy. But no, I still need to alternate because then it could look really blocky if I don't. So, but anyways, that's going to be so striking.
It really is.
So pretty. Such
really
gorgeous design. I mean, I have never seen anything like that. Like for hand knitting, you know, mohair with color work on the bishop sleeves. Come on, gorgeous.
It's very bold. I love it.
I love it.
All right, I have some crocheting.
Oh, now I gotta figure out how to put it away. With my other project tangled in it. That was brilliant.
Going on here? Okay, here we go. So I am crocheting a doily, and I can't even refer you to the pattern. Well, I probably can.
Is this not the one?
It is a...
We've already linked this in a previous...
No, that was a different one that I have decided is going to go live in the underworld for the rest of time. That was the Between Meal centerpiece.
Yes.
This is a different one.
Okay.
That one is in...
That one's evil.
That one's in permanent timeout. It will never come out. I have laid it to rest forever because my gauge changed halfway through. I'm not as good of a crocheter as I am a knitter. It's just how it is. This is one of those vintage patterns that I found on Pinterest that doesn't actually link to anything and you can't find it. And so all I have is a picture of the crochet chart. It has no other source. And I've done some searching because it says that it has a website on the pattern. I went to the website and it just is the same exact thing. So it's a vintage Russian crochet pattern. Anyway, so this is what I am working on here. And I am 6 rows away from being done with it, rounds. And it's pretty. It's so pretty. I really love it, actually. And guess what? It's going to block out just great. Not like the other evil one from 1912 that the pattern that must not be named. Okay. So there you go. But the thing about it is that I'm kind of at that place with crochet where I go and I work on it for like 20 minutes. Then I put it away for a week or two and then I pull it out. And every once in a while I pull it out, but it's getting closer to being done. So I will keep working on it. For anybody who does want to find it, the website is marietta.ru, MARRIETTA.ru. And that's where it is. But yeah, it doesn't have a lot of information. And the chart is kind of actually hard to see. So I've had to kind of look at it a couple times, but like kind of get close to it. Is that actually 5 chains or is it 3? So there you go.
Okay, I just reached a point on my socks and I have a similar question on a lot of our sock tutorials. Okay. And I just realized I can answer the question here.
I love it.
Okay, here is the question. So I have done my heel flap and heel turn, and I like to knit my socks going the other direction when I am doing the decreases, when I pick up stitches and stuff. So instead of knitting this way, I want to be knitting this way. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm going to show you what I mean. So it's readjusting your needles. So if you have your needles set up a certain way and you want them going the other direction, how do you do that? So I need to count, and I have 18 stitches here and I want to do it in 9, and I can already see where I had the space because I just did it and then realized I needed to undo it. So I need half of my stitches. I'm going to pull those stitches apart a little bit, and I'm going to pinch. I need a little bit more there. I'm going to pinch my needle and just very gently bend it. I don't want to ruin my needle and kink it, and spread those stitches apart and pull the needle through a little bit. Okay, so I've started there. So now I've got my heel flap going the other direction. Okay, I'm going to show you the next part. We'll see if this makes sense. But I want, instead of to be knitting across this way, I want them to be adjusted this way. So I'm going to count across. I need 16, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14, 16. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I've counted half of my stitches on each side, spread them apart a little bit, pinch the needle slightly. This works for magic loop. This is how we do it on there. And just pull it out a little bit. And now I'm going to just pull my knitting needle, push my knitting needle through so that they're on the live stitches here. They're on the stitches there. And I have switched my knitting. What I'm going to be doing is picking up these stitches. But I have just switched directions.
So now instead of having half of your stitches being your front stitches and half of your stitches being your back stitches, now half of them are the right of the foot and half of them are the left.
And then the question that I usually get is, well, how do I adjust my stitches when I'm done? Exactly the same thing. I will count halfway through here, which is, where the decreases were. And we usually have in our tutorial a little stitch marker, and I'll pinch that needle out and pull it. You do exactly the same thing. It's just now we're returning it to being knitting the back of the leg and the front of the leg instead of the side and the side. I do this because if I were to do the back and the front, the back is going to have a lot of stitches because we have the gusset in there, and the front's going to have a little bit, and it's going to be spreading those front stitches apart, and you'll end up with laddering on the sides. I do it this way so that I don't end up with laddering. They're even amount of stitches all the way across once I've picked them up. And I do my decreases along here. And when I finish my decreases, I switch it back. Emily doesn't do it this way. She has a 3-loop
I do
method.
a 3-loop method, and you can find that in most of my sock patterns. You can find it in, I know, Francis, Fizz, Gathering Shells. I've got it in all of those. But mine is very similar, other than I keep my front stitches, and then I have a portion that's all of my gusset to the center of the heel. And the other side is the gusset to the center of the heel.
Yeah.
And so I always use a 40-inch cable instead of a shorter one.
I use a 32.
So that I can pull and have, basically I have 3 magic loops instead of just...
I have 2.
2.
But you'll have 3. And so this is a question that people will ask, but this is anytime you need to readjust your stitches on magic loop and you need to change it from having different number of stitches, you just count across, open up and just pull and very gently pull your needle out and re kind of adjust from there. I don't know if that answered, but hopefully it did.
Yep.
Not quite the same as getting it up close, just our hands, but that's okay. Nobody needs to see that, just my hands, because you got to see this.
And thanks to everybody who has continued to find us through our sock knitting series.
I know that's kind of an awkward one, but thank you all. Your graciousness.
We made it, and it is what it is. And somehow it is helpful to people. And it is not a polished thing, but oh well.
People will ask questions like, what about this? And I'm like, what did I even say?
That was a few years ago.
Like 3 years ago. What did I even say about that? I don't even remember. Like, how did I know those things? I don't know them now. I was smarter then than I am now.
Well, you just kind of get used to doing your own way. And so you forget about people that might not know that same way. Like, it's hard to explain it.
I actually did, when we were doing those tutorials, I did a lot of preparing for it to remember, because it's one thing to, like you said, do it yourself, but another thing to teach somebody to do it. And I did a lot of preparation to make sure that I was ready to teach. So it's very different than just like sitting down and knitting your own socks.
Did you have another project?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, I have one last one. Very simple crochet project, but I picked up a couple skeins of these wool ease cakes. And it's skeins, big giant balls is what they are.
Huge.
This is, I have no idea how to say this.
Try. I want to hear it, Emily.
Teak.
Oh, well, that wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be.
This color. I don't know if that is even, yeah. We'll just say color 203.
Okay.
So it's Lion Brand Wool Ease Cakes. And they are 80% acrylic and 20% wool. And you know what I'm doing? I'm doing the big, giant granny square. Here's the thing. I would not do this again with this yarn because the center of this ball, the one I pulled, I have another one just like this that I pulled from, is brown, which that's fine, except for the center of your granny square is going to be like this. These colors are even number of stripes, but because it's the center, you're going to get more of that color because each concentric round you get fewer rows of the color.
I got what you're saying.
Does that make sense? And so I already pulled out almost all of the brown from the ball, and I still have, it feels like this is a brown blanket with some color stripes around it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I really wanted I love the colors, like all these colors.
Yeah, brown is kind of a weird one in there.
It really is. I think it's supposed to be kind of the chalk, but like it's not only just brown, but the brown
army green.
has like an army green. So anyway, it's okay. It's fun. I'm going to do this one. And then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to do it from the colorful side in. So that's how I'll do it, but it'll get smaller and smaller and eventually they'll break up. So I don't know how I feel about it, but
what is it for?
Just because I like to make things for baby gifts, and that was my goal, was to make it for a baby blanket. Okay. But I know our friend Wendy, she likes to do these granny squares, and she says the same thing, that you lose the color. So what she does is she does them only up to about this big, and then she'll start a new one, and then she'll sew 4 of them together to get
a bigger one,
a bigger blanket. And I think that's really smart.
Yeah, that is one of the things with when you have striping. If you're not just doing back and forth, then you lose that like evenness.
But then again, sometimes yarn is on clearance, and you get it for $4.50 for a ball that big. This one was not hobby, but
I know, but I'm saying,
a ball that big. So you just buy it and then you make baby blankets.
You won't complain at all about that.
And I think that's quite enough for me to be getting on with. I still have plenty of things that are actually like hibernating that I didn't bring out, but
yeah, I think that's plenty for all of us to be getting on with. So why don't we be getting on with our Kindness is Like Sugar segment?
All right, I am excited to talk about my lovely friends, the McKay family. This last week, as I said, we had our son's wedding, and normally we would probably do it in an indoor space because it's easier to set things up and so on. But with all of the restrictions that we are under because of the pandemic, we knew we needed to be outdoors so we could be as spread out as we could and so on. But short notice, low budget, it was a hard thing to decide. And I thought of our friends, the McKays, and they have a very simple and lovely country home in the country. And they are such good friends. I was able to ask them what they thought of having us do a wedding in their backyard. And they were so excited about it. Like, they were over the moon. Like, it's such an honor that you would ask us and things like that. And it just made me think about how there are some times where we have friends or family that you may not think that you can ask them for something, but when you do, you actually find out just how wonderful they are. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because the way that we became really close friends with the McKays, we worked with them in heroic youth and we knew them, but we weren't super close knit. And years ago, 15 plus years ago, probably 15 years ago. One day, Marty McKay, the dad, he called me and said, "This is a really weird question, but could we invite ourselves over to your house for dinner tonight?" Come to find out, their basement had flooded and their house was in total upheaval. And I felt just the same way, so honored that they would ask if we would be willing to feed them, because of course I was super, super willing. And, we had something really simple, but they came over, and that was how we became real. That was how we just found out that we were super close friends. And we've been very close with them for years. And so here we were needing to have a wedding. And not only were they saying, well, that would be all right for you to use our yard, but here's some of the things that we, here's some rules. They were just like, come on in,
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time, I'd call them and say, would it be okay if we had our tables and chairs dropped off? Oh, sure. Do you want me to, I can be there, and no, we'll come and make sure. Like we don't want your whole schedule to be taken over. Could we use your garage to store these things? Oh, sure. Our house is your house. And just the whole time they were so gracious about the entire thing that, it just, I don't know. It was a big part of what made it so magical. And I think that we want to be independent. We always want that, we don't want to ask people for help, but you might never know how close you could be with someone until you ask them for help. I saw a meme going around that described somebody, who says, my mom, it kind of tells a story about their mom. And it said, once I asked my mom asked our neighbor if she could borrow some salt. And I asked her, why are you asking our neighbor to borrow salt? Because we have salt. And she said, well, our neighbors are in need and they need to ask us for things, but I want them to feel like that they are helpful to us as well. And so I asked them for something simple and inexpensive so that they know that the door is open and that this is a two-way street and it creates a relationship.
That's a very good meme. That's a long meme.
Well, it was like a little, a picture of a little story that had been written down and shared. And I think about that principle so much that sometimes kindness isn't only being shown to us or us giving of service. Sometimes we show kindness by asking other people for help, and it makes them, I think about how honored I felt that Marty would think that he could call the Clausen family and say, we're in an emergency situation. Can you feed us tonight? Yeah. And that made me just feel like, hey, I want to be that kind of person that somebody knows they could ask. And so it made me feel so like, I don't know, a way to hold your head high. Yeah. And so I think that if you want to build a relationship with somebody, and especially if you want to build a relationship with somebody who you think might need your help, but maybe not be open to it, you can ask them for help. And that can be such an amazing bridge to build. And I think that the one thing we need more than anything is to be building bridges. Right now, we have a lot of islands happening, everybody's on their island, and we need bridges everywhere so that we can stop being on our islands and start being in each other's, having each other's back. And so
holding other people's hearts in our hands carefully.
Yeah.
I have actually done that unintentionally and then intentionally afterwards, because we're very often taught that if you are struggling to love somebody, then you should serve them. And so I've used that, and it helps me to love somebody. But if you want to develop a relationship with somebody, you have to humble yourself and ask for help. And it's hard to ask for help, like you were saying, to say that I need something, because we all want to be the one that's always offering the service, but it doesn't work if there's not somebody to receive it. So, we have done that, and I cannot think of a close friendship that I have developed over the years that has not come from asking for help.
It really does. Yeah. It can be something as simple as like with a neighbor that you don't know well, calling them or texting them and saying, I'm having a package delivered. Could you keep your eye out for it? Will you be home and keep your eye out so that it doesn't get picked up, So it doesn't really take a lot from them. But it's a way for you to show trust in them. Like you're inviting them into your inner circle. And we all want to feel that we're invited in. And that's sometimes you can reach people with something like that far more than you can with taking a plate of cookies or inviting them for dinner. They might not feel comfortable.
Doesn't it feel like if somebody's serving you, that means that they're here and you're here?
Yeah.
But if you're asking for help, it's saying, I need you.
And it puts you on the same level.
Yeah. And so it changes that. It changes that dynamic. Yeah, I'm just thinking of some of my dearest friends, and I've needed help, and it's hard to ask for it. So, yeah.
So
good.
Go find somebody that you can serve, but also somebody you can ask for help, and it will really help you.
I think it's a little different though in how you ask too.
Yes,
that does change things because there is a demand. There is asking for things that. You're like, but it depends on who it is. Some people, you may need to ask something big. And
asking somebody to have a wedding at their house, it's a big thing. I mean, they took their pets. Our family is really allergic to animals. And not only that, but you're setting up for a wedding and they have big dogs and they were so sweet. They found somewhere for their dogs to be for 2 days. I mean, that's huge right there. Unbeknownst to me, she hired somebody to come and clean her house the day before because she was worried about the allergies. You know, the yard work that they did, they let us take down their zip line in their backyard. I mean, there's a lot of things like that they weren't just like, hey, can we be in your backyard for a few hours? It was a lot of things.
Can we take over your entire space and...
And the whole time I kept saying, if we ask you something and it's too much, please tell me no, it's okay. You know, we will figure it out. And the whole time they just over and over, oh no, I was totally expecting that. That's totally great. Aww. And they were just the most gracious.
They are. They're very
and it was really a magical, beautiful, beautiful day. And it couldn't have been, I mean, I don't think it would have had that same feeling of hominess and inviting atmosphere without that love that we have between our families. I think it set the stage.
It was great.
It was good.
Do you have any shop news?
I do. So first of all, I'm going to bring these over here. Oof. So Advent calendars are shipping out. My goal was by the end of October, but it might be the first week in November. But for sure, I mean, the advertised date was November, I think November 7th. So for sure by then. So those are in the process. And I have a few things I wanted to show you. I have Mirkwood in the shop, which by the way, looks amazing with Tolkien, but it also looks amazing with L.M. Montgomery. Those are both really pretty with that. So there's some pretty things there. And then I have a new Christmas colorway that's coming out. This is Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. So fun. I love it. It's so minty. That one's in the shop now. I also have 2 other Christmas colorways, which will have pictures here. There is Sleigh Ride and also the Milk of Human Kindness. So those are all in the shop right now. Some of my favorite fall colors in the author's line are these right here. I just love all of them. Dickens has been so popular lately. I have just been selling and shipping Dickens like crazy. And look at my nails are the same color. How fun is that? That was one of the wedding colors. So I love that one. So Dickens, I think this is Twain. We've got L'Amour. And then I showed you Tolkien and L.M. Montgomery. Also Roald Dahl, but I am out of that one right now because that one has been popping out there too. All right. I also have a few Narnia colorways left that I am going to be not dyeing these for a little while. So I wanted to share those. I have Beyond the Wardrobe and Once a King or Queen and Tea with Tumnus.
How does that differ?
So this has got all the gray in it, which you're not really seeing right here. They're very similar, but Tea with Tumnus has these gray streaks through it, and it's lighter than Twain.
Yeah. I can see it more here. You can see it on there, but not quite as much.
You can't see it on the screen as much as you can. So anyway, there's some of the things that I have got in the shop. I've also got some Cheshire's Grin still in the shop. And I'm just clearing things out because I am, pretties. Because I am getting ready to, well, I'm clearing these out, some of these, like the Narnia stuff. And I did put those Christmas colorways in, but I'm getting ready for some new fun things for the new year as well. I'm going to be continuing my author colorways, but I've got some fun stuff. So I can't really say all what it is yet, but you'll get to see that. The last thing is I also still have, just a few spots left in October's Hunger Games set. Remember how I said I wasn't going to do any mystery sets? I just missed it a lot. So Hunger Games has been on my mind for a while. Plus I did a poll on Instagram and it was overwhelmingly the victor to have the mystery set be Hunger Games based. So I did last month, September was The Reaping, and this month is Primrose Everdeen is the theme. So I'll be doing that for at least a few more months. I have a year's worth planned, but you know, as long as it continues to be popular, I could keep going from that too. So that's what I've got going on. Yep.
Yeah, I've dyed some yarn and sold some bags on my shop because, like Emily's saying, just missed it. I just missed it. And every now and again, I'll get bit by that bug where I'm like, I just have to dye some yarn. So I'll dye some here and there and list it when I can.
Yep.
I'm not doing anything.
No commitments.
Yeah. I just was doing it as I felt like doing it and as I had the time. And those two had to go together, which doesn't always work. But I did just make one that I really love, and I'm going to be posting that.
Have I seen it?
Soon. No, I just did it. I was going to bring it today, but...
The problem is that she dyes yarn, and then I buy it from her before it gets on Etsy.
So, because I just dye a small amount, then I'll be like, hey, Emily. Or I'll say, I need a color a name for this one. And next thing I know, they're gone, so I don't lose them.
Yep.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm just doing it because I love doing it. So a little bit ago, I needed to find an old post to reference. I don't remember what it was. So I had to go back almost to the beginning of my Instagram account on Candy Shoppe Yarns. And I went back and I was looking through the pictures and I was so inspired. I was like, oh, it made me, like, I was inspired as in, not as, like, I needed to go create these things or make something with it, but it inspired me in the way I wanted to inspire others, to evoke a sense of childhood wonder and enthusiasm and joy. And I felt that from the pictures that I had. I was like, oh, I did it for myself. Like, it made me really happy. So that's when I decided to dye some yarn.
That's so awesome. I love it.
So I enjoy it.
It's good stuff.
But I also, it's hard to get a hold of yarn.
Right now it really is.
And so
I'm sure you've been hearing that other places.
And I don't want to take from businesses that really need it. So I'm not offering, when I dye yarn, I dye with what I have. I don't want to try and take from other businesses that are trying to support their families with it. So I just use what I have. Yeah. That's what there is.
Yep, that it will get resolved eventually, but there have been so many issues with supply chains just due to the circumstances we're in the world. So that makes it a bit of a challenge. So if you're getting frustrated because you're not finding specific things, that's why. It's not because people aren't trying, but there's just issues with supply chain.
Including the suppliers, they're
all trying
very
super
best,
hard.
going above and beyond.
And I love it. I mean, it's made me love my supplier even more because of just the grace and honesty and ethics that they've displayed as they've gone through this. So it's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's been a good chunk of time.
This is a long one.
That's what happens.
You guys said you missed us. I hope you watched this in sections.
If you've been sitting here for the whole time, please get up and walk around to get some water.
Yeah, my back end's going to sleep, so time to go.
Love you all. Have a wonderful October.
See ya.